There you go.
Thanks.
How you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Oh yeah. Was that a good talk for you? Did you feel good?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you're looking at the presenter notes, I found on the on the little display in front of me, I just looked at them and thought, I don't even know what I've written. I spent a long time up there kind of trying to reprocess my own thoughts. So I think I probably missed quite a lot of out. Yeah, I'm really softly spoken, as everyone keeps saying.
Cool. So what we're doing here is we're doing the live stream section of it. So only people that are watching online are seeing this interview. Cool. And they sent out some questions, and I wrote those down. So if you're okay with it, I can just ask you some questions from the online.
Yeah,
audience.
Go ahead.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. So I have some questions, and I'm trying to distinguish between what, because I'll give preference to the people rather than me first.
Yeah.
So one question that came up was like, most of your work is in a flat digital form, in an image or a short animation. How could it be expanded to something more complex, such as film, interactive installations, or maybe even a game?
I don't really know. I think I'd have to speak with people that know gaming, perhaps. I think film-wise and animation-wise, it can work in the same way as many animators create animations. They're very 2D, and it would work in a very flat world. I just have to create a new world for it to exist in, and add up from that. But in terms of more of a kind of fourth-dimensional space, I don't know. It exists as a 2D object most of the time. I can see how it can work in sculptural forms in real life. And those are quite easy because you can walk around them, and they could still be 2D objects. So maybe that's a way it could be approached in gaming, just to keep these kind of like flat elements and as the core, and things just kind of move like old video games.
Right. Right. No, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
And I think I can sort of like blend into another question I had, which is, you talked a little bit in your talk about sort of knowing enough about, for example, you said code and motion, right? Where like you try to have a little bit of knowledge so that you can communicate a little bit better.
Yeah.
But do you try it yourself a little bit so that you can sort of go through the challenge? So not only having the knowledge, but also having the idea of how hard it can be to...
Yeah, 100%. Everything I try and do myself, and then realize that it's really, really hard. And then you have to speak to other people to help you. I mean, the animations that were on my presentation are ones that I've done myself, and they range from really crude kind of GIFs to things that are now a bit more streamlined. And that's just from getting more used to kind of certain programs and suites. But I think anything more complex, I'm going to have to start speaking to other people. But at least I know how the drawings need to be broken down. I've only recently actually started using Illustrator, and that's mainly because it has shapes and layers that can be manipulated in After Effects. And it's only after knowing that and working on an animation project a couple of years ago, where I was drawing things in raster files, and it was so hard for them to animate. He had to kind of redraw all my images, and I felt so bad that he was redoing all my work. And it's now from learning how animation works, when it comes to new briefs now, I know how to separate the work and send it off to these people. And the same with coding. I tried to code World 2 myself. It was just an image on a screen that you clicked refresh, and it kept changing.
That seems like success to me.
That's what I thought. I thought, this is cool. This is lo-fi. I'll just keep clicking refresh. But it didn't. I spoke to a design studio, Too Much Studio, and because I managed to have the concept working, I was like, this is what I wanted to do, but I want it to be better. I want it to look nice. I want it to actually work. And they've done other interactive projects before where it relies on audience participation, so they knew exactly what to pull in from the things that I'd showed them, and from that we could build it into
That's really
the thing that works now.
Yeah, and it's funny because I just go in and assume that every flat design that I mostly assume that it is Illustrator. So you would just do it like in pixel based image?
It used to be. So I mean, I used to be quite proud of it, I think. But I used to use this old software called Jask. It's like a predecessor to Corel. Nobody seems to know it. But I had it as a kid. I think it came free with a camera that my dad bought. And it's just like a glorified paint program with the addition of vector lines. So like vector arcs, I don't know, I can't remember what they're called, the little nodes that you can...
Probes,
yeah, but it had that in there, but it only exported in raster form. And I had like I put a little hack in there so I could export it as Photoshop layers. And then I'd go from Photoshop into the Adobe kind of arena. And I just made the work way too hard for myself.
But then again, do you go back sometimes when you know that your work is not going to be exported to motion graphics, or do you still try to pull that?
Yeah, I do. A lot of the I asked quite
a lot of noise
so loud. It's the end of the day. They want me to go.
It's
yeah, a lot of the main question I've been asked as I expanded my practice is people love this kind of gradient fuzz approach that I add onto my images, and that completely came out of the Jask software. It just had because it had Photoshop capabilities, so it has like different brushes that you could customize and create, and they're so hard to do in Illustrator without it being like the densest file you can ever imagine. So yeah, I switched back to that if I want to make something a little bit more different, a little bit old, and it's I like drawing in there because I'm used to it.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Let me see if I have questions. All right, so I'm not even sure if I'm connected, but I have a lot of questions asked. If I have time, I have time.
Yeah.
Okay, so for your own self limitations, how do you define it? Like your limitations, design document, a rule book, post-its, and how do you set a list of limitations, expanded or shrunk over the years? And I think you also mentioned that you like to challenge yourself to keep learning, which I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned that like you sort of try, maybe I understood that wrong, but you try to like keep a color palette in your mind and an art style, sort of the stroke and anything. Like,
yeah.
Do you still follow those rules, or do you like often break those rules to actually make the things more dynamic, different?
It's a bit of both. Yeah, I follow the rules quite religiously. Definitely in more commercial work, people want something that fits in with the rest of my portfolio, I suppose. Mm-hmm. So whenever those briefs come back, it's straight back into this kind of like. I haven't got any like handbooks on how I work. It's just something. It's just kind of like I've been doing it for so long that you know what it is that I do and I don't do. And the only time I kind of break out from that is in my own personal practice. And I don't share a lot of that personal practice because I'm still developing it. The whole kind of like fuzz and tone kind of side of my work came out of that side, and I didn't share. But yeah, I think it was just I've only ever seen digital drawing as an extension of the pen, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And I draw quite similarly, I suppose, to how you. It doesn't look like it, but you draw on the paper. That's why it's lines, and then the computer lets me color in, and that's kind of how it works. And then you just get stuck in this kind of routine. And I think I don't intend to maybe break out of a style. I don't sit down and think I'm going to draw something really different today. I'm normally thinking about a mood or an atmosphere that I try to create. I try to think less about depicting a scene now and depicting a kind of a recognizable emotion or something that can connect on a kind of different playing field. And sometimes they result in different ways of drawing. Sometimes I don't even use lines anymore.
Yeah.
But and that's how it kind of works. It's quite like intuitive, I suppose.
It makes a lot of sense to me, actually. But yeah, I think I'm gonna put my computer to charge. Otherwise, it will just be
falling asleep there.
Yeah.
Like me.
No, but I think that's kind of all the time that we have.
Okay,
I do
cool.
appreciate your talk was amazing. You're a nice, super nice guy.
Thanks.
Yeah, and we'll see each other, I guess, around.
Yeah, we'll carry on our talks.
Yeah, cool. So just say goodbye to your online
yeah,
audience.
goodbye. Thanks very much.
Don't forget to subscribe.
And you can always just send me a message, and I'm always trying to like answer things if anybody wants to ask any questions.
We'll also post like your Instagram or whatever like website that you have.
Yeah.
Just so people on the chat they can like follow you.
Yeah.